Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me fucked up, let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement just to make a statement. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll put it on your face to make you go take it.
Hey y'all, I hope y'all had a good day. Oh, I had a long day with 3 doctor's appointments. And when I got back, I found out that they found Dylan Round's remains after 2 years. So, hey Richie, hey Birdo, hey Jeff. So I wanted to play that with East Idaho News. Nate did a 7-minute video on it. And I wanted to play that for you guys before we got into Sebastian Rogers. So let's do that. Please hit that like button for me, you guys.
I'm Nate Eaton with EastIdahoNews.com. We have some breaking news to bring you right now. The body of Dylan Rounds has been found. Dylan Rounds, his remains have been found in the remote area of Lucin, Utah. Dylan is the young 19-year-old who vanished over Memorial Day weekend back in 2022. He was a farmer. He moved to the desert town of Lucin, Utah, which is in northern Utah, kind of near the Nevada border, when he vanished. And his family tells me that this morning his remains were found near or in Lucin in a remote area. That's all the information that we have at the moment from his family. Of course, Rounds had been missing since May of 2022. The 19-year-old spoke with his mother on the phone right before he vanished, and his family has spent the past 2 years searching for answers. His mother, Candace Cooley, tells me that as part of a plea agreement with James Brenner, the man accused of killing Dylan, Brenner led the investigators out to the site where the remains were on Tuesday morning, which would be today, on April 9th, in case you're just tuning in, or you're watching on another day.
So they found his remains this morning. And James Brenner, the one that's in jail right now for accused of killing him, is the one that sent them right to his remains. So we know 100% who did it now.
They got there, they found those remains, and they have been recovered. Now, Brenner is charged with aggravated murder and abuse or desecration of a human body in connection to Round's death. Let me show you just how remote this area is. That's where Dylan was farming. That was his camper. That was his truck. And you can see there's not much around this area. It really was a desolate area. James Brenner, this is the man who is facing those charges. He, again, must have said something to investigators or cooperated or something. We don't have all of the details at this point, but they do have the remains because of where James Brenner led them. This is a spot where James Brenner had his camper. He lived near Dylan Rounds out there. Both of them were in separate campers. And when Dylan's family went out to begin looking for him in late May of 2022, they found his boots right there behind that mound of dirt, which was some distance off. And there was also a shed right by James.
This first beginning is about Dylan Rounds because I just found out that they found his remains. So it's a short 7-minute video. And I just wanted to play it to show y'all the maps.
James Brenner's camper. this is what that shed looked like. And within a few days of Dylan disappearing, James Brenner cleaned that shed to the point of how it looks now. You know, it doesn't look very clean, maybe to some of us, but he did remove bags out of that shed, according to Dylan's family, and he did take those to an undisclosed location. And so all of this would likely have come into play if there was a trial. It still could, as far as evidence. But as I mentioned, according to Dylan's family, as part of some sort of plea deal, Brenner took the authorities to the area where Dylan's body was, and they were able to find it.
There you go. James Brenner. Okay, here we go.
In the last hours, the bio dad and grandparents of missing autistic boy Sebastian Rogers hold a vigil where everyone vows that Sebastian will be brought home safe and sound. Will he? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Crime Stories as we continue joining in the search for Sebastian. First of all, take a listen to this. Have the two of you taken a polygraph?
I have.
I have not.
Would you be willing to?
I've offered and volunteered on many occasions to take a polygraph, and I was told directly by law enforcement, because of my whereabouts, I did not need one.
I understand. Ms. Proudfoot, did you pass your polygraph?
I did.
That's not exactly what has been stated before by Sebastian Rogers' stepfather, Mr. Proudfoot. Listen. And Mr. Proudfoot, you have volunteered to take a poly?
Yes, ma'am.
If I were to set up a poly for you, would you take it?
Name the place and time, ma'am. I'll be there.
Joining me in All-Star panel to make sense of what we're hearing right now, but first to Dave Mack, crimeonline.com investigative reporter. Dave Mack, isn't it true that crimeonline.com did set up a polygraph?
Absolutely true.
And what happened?
Chris Proudfoot told us that he could not take it now. He wanted to, but he can't because the TBI told him not to.
We all know the issue with Proudfoot and taking the lie detector test and how he lied to Nancy and all that. We already know that. But I don't agree with this banner she has up there at all.
It's my understanding to Cheryl McCollum joining us. Cheryl McCollum, founder director of the Cold Case Research Institute, forensics expert, and host of Zone 7 podcast. Cheryl, it's my understanding that specifically Sebastian's stepfather said he could no longer do interviews, including with us, because he had been instructed so by the TBI. And Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, that they did not want any of his interviews to interfere with the investigation, and that even though he had agreed to do our polygraph, he now says that the TBI is going to set up their own polygraph, and he can't take our polygraph until after that. And once he does that, then, quote, we'll take it from there.
I like this lady right here. She has some really interesting things to say also.
What do you make of it?
You know, you and I always go back to Mark Class. If you want to make sure that the law enforcement has everything they need to get rid of looking at you, you can do that. He can set up a private polygraph through an attorney. He can take yours. He can demand that TBI give him one so that they can stop focusing on him and this polygraph business and move on and find out where Sebastian is at. Period.
I mean, Cheryl McCollum, you and I can go right now and pay for a polygraph. They'd be
Right.
happy to take our money. Hey, just put it on a credit card
And
and
here's
take
the
a
other,
polygraph.
TBI would be happy to accept those results. A polygraph is a polygraph. And the examiner, that's who you're relying on. So you've got somebody that's going to be willing to testify and put their reputation on the line. Again, he could make this happen today if he wanted to.
Let's go straight out to Joseph Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and star of a hit series, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. Joe Scott, thank you for being with us. You know what? This is like static in my ears because I know tick tock, tick tock. As long as we focus on the stepfather and the mother, Mr. and Mrs. Proudfoot, I'm losing time. If by some stretch of the imagination, Sebastian is still alive, if he's alive, he won't be much longer. What do the stats show? What is your opinion? I need it, and I need it now, Joe Scott.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we're looking at is this idea of time. We're talking about a young man that went missing back in February, Nancy, late February. And as we move down that timeline, you know, the odds are stacked against him. I think one of the most important pieces that's kind of arisen out of this, other than all of the comments that have been made to this point relative to polygraphs and those sorts of things, are those eyeglasses. And I love the shot the producers put up of him standing in front of that rack of eyeglasses, because that's going to tell the tale. I think if they can specifically tie those to him, that's very important. They can take that script off of those glasses, determine if they are his.
I don't think they're
And-
his glasses, Joe Scott.
We already know they're
I
not.
don't
Well-
think they're his glasses.
At this point in time, you have to work with what you have. If they're not his, then that points us down a different road, doesn't it? And sometimes,
Okay, let's go with they're not his glasses. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, Joe Scott. I was thrilled. I mean, you know, you may want to jump in on this, Cheryl. Remember, we're not having high tea at Windsor Castle, but it's a sad day when you're excited, when you're thrilled, you think you find a missing boy's glasses. Why was I thrilled? Because it was a clue for a moment, and then the TBI confirmed they're not his glasses. So I see where you're going, Joe Scott, but it's a sad day when we're all thrilled to find a pair of beat up glasses on the side of the road. But I was. So where does that leave me, Joe Scott? As we're all like, take a poly, take a poly. Why won't he take a poly? What really happened? Was he at work? Was he not at work? While we're all gnashing our teeth and switching our tails trying to figure out about Mr. Proudfoot, if this kid, this child is out there with his autism kicking in, giving him problems, what's going to happen? The likely scenario, Joe Scott, as we're spinning our wheels on Proudfoot.
yeah, if this is, you know, we're talking about Hendersonville, Tennessee, Nancy, which is 10 miles outside of Nashville, but you know, really quickly up there, that area becomes very rural. And so if he has wandered off or been taken off in any number of directions, his ability or survivability is greatly diminished here. And what the police are doing right now is, if you think about the last known location of him, that's the center of the target. And they're working from concentrically to eccentrically. They're moving out in these big circles, but it's such a broad, densely wooded area. This is a Herculean task, to say the least. I think that some of the answers are going to rest in the idea that whoever had control over him, his comings and goings. We're talking about a kid that has been diagnosed with autism. Whoever had control over his comings and goings, their electronics need to be tracked, Nancy. Those ideas of where did they go at those times when he was last seen alive. And that's going to be one of the threads that you're going to want to pull in this investigation.
You know, Cheryl McCollum, host of Zone 7, is a forensic expert. As you know, Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator. Cheryl, you've had quite a lot to say online. What about now? Cat got your tongue? Because I don't like that. You're pretty
No,
bold when nobody's questioning you. But what about
no,
now? I want to hear your analysis.
here's my problem. They're statements. You've got inconsistencies. As soon as somebody changes their story at all, they should become the focus. Period. Mom has said different things. Now you've got a stepdad that looks like he's co-signing with everything that she says, but he allegedly wasn't there. So how can he agree with anything that she's saying? You've got mom saying she heard a thud.
Thank you very much. Finally, somebody's bringing it up.
I don't like that word. That sounds like a body hitting the floor. When people use the word thud, that's not sounded like he hit the wall, sounded like something
No, it's
dropped.
never a good thing. It's usually preceded by an adjective, sickening, a sickening thud.
Right. And Nancy, you've got other things. You've got mom saying he went to the end of the driveway to put out the trash. And then you've got law enforcement searching a landfill. They're searching lakes, they're searching ponds. If you're watching and paying attention to law enforcement, it does not seem to me that they are looking to recover a child alive. They are searching for remains. You and I both know, and Joe Scott knows, when a child goes missing, the first 3 hours are critical. We're at 6 weeks. 6 weeks that this child has not been seen or heard from.
Okay,
Six
hold on.
weeks.
Why are you saying, Cheryl McCollum, that you believe they don't expect to find Sebastian alive based on their actions? I'm talking about LA law enforcement.
Their searches. They're searching landfills, lakes, ponds. That is not indicative of somebody that is alive. Again, you've got a child that has gone 6 weeks without his medicine, 6 weeks without food that we know of. He didn't have a source, no shoes. And mama herself says, oh, a flashlight's missing. Again, that's such an odd thing for her to know is missing until they show her video that looks like a flashlight. And then the stepdad says, well, we were sure hoping it was, but we're sad to report it wasn't a flashlight. Well, if you've got two flashlights out there, why are you glad that it's not that? That to me would signify that somebody was out there in the wee hours of the morning with two flashlights, meaning two separate people, the night your child went missing. I mean, it's just odd.
What
They
do you
claim they,
make of a 3-hour conversation held
yeah,
between Mrs. Proudfoot and Mr. Proudfoot the night Sebastian disappears?
the 3 hour phone call bothers me because, again, that's a long time to be on the phone. And, you're hearing your son supposedly, he's answering you supposedly during that time, but you don't go check on him at all. Did somebody leave their phone just on while they went and did something else? I don't know. But I agree with Joe Scott. The electronics are going to tell the story. When his mama first entertained the idea that somebody had him,
Yes, we know this. If they will ever investigate it as criminal, when are they going to do that? That's what we're waiting for.
what did she base that on? His phone's not missing. He didn't take shoes, didn't take clothes, didn't take money. Nothing on his cell phone, nothing on his computer says that he's been talking to anybody. I mean, she's entertaining something that we have no facts for.
Well,
We
I'm
have no evidence.
concerned about and you're right. Whenever I hear inconsistent statements, as I've discussed many, many times in front of juries, it's one thing to add or embellish your original statement because maybe you weren't asked the right questions first time around. Maybe you remembered something in addition, triggered by questions. But when you change your story, that's a problem. To Joe Scott Morgan joining us, professor at Jacksonville State University. Joe Scott, let's look at where the searches are being conducted.
Yeah.
We know the law enforcement search has been scaled back. I want to hear, since you are a death investigator, we all three have been on many, many searches for missing people and who we believe to be dead. I want to hear your analysis. What can we glean from looking at what law enforcement is doing?
Back to Cheryl's point about landfills and ponds. Ponds or bodies of water. You can think that, well, you have people that can um, just wander into these locations, okay? Particularly somebody that might be in a compromised state, like this young man, from a mental and a physical status at this point in time. But when you start to talk about landfills, Nancy, this is a rather dark thing. I've been to landfills multiple times conducting death investigations, and those are locations where we're talking about the discarding of remains. Now, here's another interesting point: the fact that the landfill is all the way up
You
in
mean he didn't
Kentucky.
just walk into a landfill and fall over?
No, and certainly not in Kentucky. This is specifically targeted. Now, from my understanding, is that landfill is used to surf it or serve this particular area. And landfills are very complex environments. They're gridded off. Essentially, they know where they're going to do dumpings. It's not like they randomly go into these locations and just back the truck up. They go to specific locations. But with landfills, they're highly complex. They're layered, and so as you begin to stack items in there, they then run over them with this heavy equipment, and it makes the going very tough. As a matter of fact, anything that gets in there begins to degrade and decompose very quickly. That's the purpose of it. And so that is not a good sign, Nancy. And the fact that they are searching a landfill is rather ominous to me.
Nancy, I want to
To
jump in
Dave
here
Mack,
real quick
from
before we
line
lose.
doc. No,
But
I was just coming to you because I wanted to talk
I'm
to you,
sorry.
Dave Mack, on two issues and whatever else you want to interject.
Go ahead.
Please, I need everybody's thoughts. One, I want to get from you any previous inconsistent statements as correctly stated by Cheryl McCollum, and two, allegations that Sebastian, this autistic boy, was molested have emerged. Let's start with inconsistent statements very quickly.
From the very beginning, Nancy, Chris Proudfoot made statements in interviews online claiming he actually said somebody asked the question, was a polygraph taken and has it been passed? Yes, I didn't specify who or when, but what I can tell you, everything has been vetted completely. Polygraphs have come back as passed. So I'm confused as in why they are all wondering if myself, my wife, and the biological father took. Okay, we know that's a lie. We know that is absolutely a lie because of what he told you on your
But
show.
you're saying that that's what Proudfoot said, that he had taken a polygraph, he and his
Word
wife,
for
and
word.
had been, quote, vetted. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, he
He
did
has.
say that on a podcast. Go ahead.
Okay, and then we also have the belt. You know, we have hitting Sebastian with the belt. I don't know if you caught this, but you know, when Seth Rogers was on your show last week when we were talking about the belt, he started crying. I saw later Seth referred to it as he wasn't aware of the corporal punishment that Chris Proudfoot was handing out to his son, to Seth Rogers' autistic son. And, you know, we pointed out that Proudfoot claimed it was years ago and it was one spank with the belt on his butt, but through clothing, which makes no sense to any parent in the history of mankind or any teacher at school that they would actually look into something through clothing like that. But they couldn't remember when, how long ago it was. And in another interview, he said 15, which means it had to have been in the last several months. So we've got a number of
Didn't
serious issues
Sebastian
here.
turn 15 in December?
Correct. And it went missing February 26th.
So if he was 15 when he got a whack with the belt, that would have been in the last few months just before he disappears. So which one is true? Was it 3 years ago or was it when he was 15 years old? Another question. Allegations that Sebastian was molested have now emerged. What can you tell us?
From Seth Rogers. Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, said that when the Proudfoots, when Katie and Chris Proudfoot and Sebastian were living in an apartment in California several years ago, that Katie Proudfoot allowed a boy that was 5 years older than Sebastian to play with Sebastian, and the boy was 13. Sebastian was 8 at this time. She allowed it. And Seth Rogers said that Katie Proudfoot allowed a 13-year-old boy to play with Sebastian, who is 8, without any kind of involvement from Katie Proudfoot and that during the time this 13-year-old molested and raped Sebastian Rogers.
It seems the more we investigate,
I still would like to know if these allegations are true, why didn't Seth get him then? If he knew that he was being abused like that.
the murkier the facts become. This is what I know. Every day, literally every hour that Sebastian Rogers is missing is 1 hour closer to him being dead. Can we tune out all the static and the noise and try to focus on finding this autistic boy? And to you, Mr. Proudfoot, our offer is still on the table for a polygraph, free of charge to you. I'll pay for it out of my pocket. We wait as the search goes on. Goodbye, friend.
Goodbye, friend. You guys, so don't forget, they found Dylan Round's remains today, this morning in Utah. I wasn't gonna go live about Sebastian again because there's nothing going on except the same stuff that, hold on, sorry, that everybody's saying the same thing over and over and over again. And it's pointless. We need to get more people out there searching for Sebastian than worrying about what everybody else is doing. Obviously, they're not going to bring you to where he is. So just go out and search for him. That's the only thing that anyone can do. So I'm making this short because I am so exhausted. Doctor's appointments all day. I made them all day today. Try to get them in all day today because court starts tomorrow morning with opening statements. Don't forget Chad Daybell, opening statements tomorrow morning. Be here or be square. Amazing. I know, right, BDAC? That's what I said too. I'm just glad that they found him and now Candace and the rest of the family can put him to rest and have some kind of closure. So hopefully Sebastian will be very soon behind that. We'll find him. Just keep praying, you guys. That's all we can do. And if you're close and able, please go help search. Well, none of us do, Berto. But you know, Nancy faces reality and it is what it is. And she calls it like it is. And that's why I like her. I don't know. I'm just blown like her, I guess. I don't know. But you guys, yeah, keep praying for Sebastian and Dylan Round's family. And I'll be back tomorrow morning for court. You guys have a wonderful evening. I'm trying my best to keep myself together. I know, Berto. Trust me, you're not the only one. It's not easy at all. All right, guys. I'll see you in the morning.